Hi guys, I'm Claire.
And I'm Matthew.
And you are watching Rent to Grown. Today we're going to talk to you about some of the more recent destruction that we have been muddling through at the hands of our really bad neighbors. If you haven't already seen episode 1 of our Really Bad Neighbor saga, I'm going to go ahead and link that in the iCards and in the description, and I really encourage you to go ahead and check that out so that you have the full backstory on what we've been dealing with for the last couple of months.
Since the filming of that video, there's been a few more issues that we haven't really talked about yet, so we'll start with those.
A few weeks ago, as we were really settling into spring, it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained almost every day for like 2 weeks straight. So that by the time that everything dried out enough that you could mow the grass was about a foot high. And I even joked that we should just bale it for hay. That was last week, and that was when the new issue started to spring up. So the neighbor guy was out mowing, and naturally, because the grass was so high, it caused a lot of grass mulch to be blown out from underneath the mower. That was all to be expected.
What we didn't expect was for him to basically mow an entire 8-foot circle around the garden bed, blowing all of the mulch into the garden, but he did.
Honestly, we didn't have much growing in there. As some of you may know, we decided to plant our onions and our potatoes last fall to see if they would come up on their own in the spring. And not nearly all of them came up, but about a dozen or so of each of them did. They were doing pretty well, but then they were covered in this thick, seedy grass mulch all of a sudden, and that was just really frustrating.
And it's something that's very easily preventable. Instead of going around the garden or in the direction he did, it could have just gone around the other way and it would have blown it away from the garden.
So the same day, while the guy was mowing farther back in our yard, he hit our compost bin with the mower and knocked it over. And he tried for like a couple of seconds to pick it up and act like it didn't happen, but he didn't even get off his lawnmower to do it, and ultimately he just left it on the ground and kept mowing and said nothing to us. We understand that accidents happen and like stuff breaks, but he should have at least said something.
I tried to go and talk to him that same day after I got home from work, but he wasn't home. I talked to his mother-in-law, I guess, that lives there with him, and she said that he mentioned something to her about it when he came in, and she said that he should mention it to us, but he didn't, and he just ignored her.
And again, that was so frustrating and just disheartening, but what could we do? Because meanwhile, the dog is still an issue, but at this point I should say dogs because they have a new puppy now. She's a really young pit bull puppy, and they are really mean to her. She is very young, maybe 2 or 3 months old, and obviously she's still going to be potty training at that age. So it really hurt my feelings when I was sitting outside and I saw him bring her out and throw her off the porch into the yard, and he screamed at her and said, "I told you to outside." There is no way in my mind that that should ever be acceptable. They take her out when they take the older dog out, but I've never seen her wear a leash, let alone a collar. And she's a puppy, so she gets away from them a lot. And so they stumble around, screaming at her, trying to catch her while she runs away. And this is every single day. And I don't blame her, she's a puppy, but I do blame them as the owners.
And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think either one of them should have their dogs.
So anyway, flash forward to today, I woke up to the sound of the lawnmower running, and I was like, oh good, they're mowing.
And good, because the grass was starting to get a little high.
Yeah. I got up and got ready for the day and didn't think anything of it. And then by the time that I got ready to leave the house, they were done. So I just thought I would look outside to see how they did. The front yard looked okay. There is a weird patch of grass in our front walkway that they haven't mowed since the very first time that they mowed. And I have no idea why they choose to not mow it, but it's getting really high and it looks really bad. So whatever, that was mostly fine. And then I looked at the backyard, and y'all,
He mowed over the entire garden.
Yeah. Mulch was thrown everywhere and everything was gone. All of the potatoes, all of the onions, everything is all gone. Mowed to the ground. He killed all of it, and I don't know why.
It's not like he hasn't mowed around it before and he didn't know it was there. And the landlord even pointed it out to him whenever he was showing him where to mow around the yard.
I have no idea why he did that, but I was crushed. And I didn't know what to do because Matthew wasn't home, and so all I could think to do was call the landlord, and so I did. I told him everything. I told him about the compost bin, the weird patch of grass, the new dog, and especially that they had just destroyed our garden. And he was very upset to hear about it, and I really do think that he'll at least have a word with them. He's talking about having a professional lawn service come out from now on. He's also not tolerating the new dog situation because apparently they're not even supposed to have dogs. We're grandfathered in because of our original lease that lets us have our dog, but apparently they told him that they were just keeping the original dog for a friend, and it's not even supposed to live there. So obviously he's very upset to hear that they now have another new dog and didn't even tell him about it.
So what do we do now?
Well, in the short term, we are going to do everything that we can to salvage what's left of our garden. I still have plenty of stuff in pots and cups on the patio that need to be planted, so I'm trying to remind myself that not all is lost. The landlord also told us previously that we could have chickens, and we still might. But if we do, they're just going to be meat birds.
As for the long term, we have a solid plan in place, and that's something we'll be talking about in our video coming up on Friday.
As always, we want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.